There are 3 Kindle Scribe models: the Scribe Colorsoft, the regular black and white Scribe with a Frontlight, and then this one, the cheaper black and white Scribe without a Frontlight. The new Scribe design is unsurprisingly still very nice. Amazon removed the old asymmetrical grip, which gives the device a much more modern tablet-like look. I still slightly miss the grip from a handling perspective, but after using the other 2 Kindle Scribes, I'm used to it by now. So honestly, this is fine too. The build quality is also excellent. The aluminum back feels nice, the device is very slim, and there's no hollow or cheap feeling to it. The rubber feet on the back are still one of those boring details that I genuinely appreciate. Because when you put the Scribe on a desk and write, it doesn't slide around as easily. The bezel around the screen is gray now, and personally I like that more than the paper white bezel of the Frontlit Scribe. To me it fits the e-ink screen better and makes the whole front look a bit calmer. The pen also attaches magnetically along the side, and Amazon is still using Wacom EMR. That means the pen is passive. No battery, no charging, no proprietary charging setup. And writing performance is still one of the Scribe's strongest points. Accuracy is excellent. Diagonal lines don't have the wobble you often get with capacitive pen systems, and latency is one of the lowest in the e-ink note-taking market. I measured around 7 to 10 milliseconds, which is even quicker than what I got on the Frontlit Scribe. I'm not entirely sure what to make of that, because I doubt Amazon changed the screen or the underlying hardware for this version. So take the exact difference with a grain of salt. But either way, in actual use, writing feels extremely immediate here. Easily among the top 3 e-ink tablets I've tested so far. Palm rejection is excellent as well, maybe the best in the e-ink space, so you don't have to constantly think about where your hand is sitting on the screen. The writing surface has that subtle paper-like texture Amazon uses on the other Scribes. It's not the scratchiest or most tactile writing feel out there, but I like it. It's not too loud, and it doesn't have that hard pen-on-glass tapping feel you get on the remarkable Paper Pure. And because the texture is fairly subtle, it also doesn't blur the pixels as much as rougher writing surfaces can. So as a writing device, this is actually incredibly good from a hardware perspective. But the important part is that it doesn't feel better than the regular Frontlit Scribe in any meaningful way. And that's where this model starts to lose its purpose inside Amazon's own lineup. The display itself is excellent in good light. It's still a clean black and white e-ink Carta 1300 panel with 300 ppi, so text looks crisp and contrast is strong. For books, notes, and black and white documents, this is exactly the kind of large e-ink screen I like. But with an L-star value of 65 to 66, which I measured with my spectrophotometer, it's not better than the Frontlit Scribe either. L-star describes lightness, so the higher the number is, the brighter the surface appears. And while this is very good and in line with the rest of the market, it's not better than on the Frontlit sibling. And during the day, or under a good desk lamp, you don't need a Frontlight at all. That's the whole appeal of e-ink. It reflects ambient light and looks calm in a way regular displays still don't. But the Frontlight is not just a luxury feature on a device where reading is still a core use case. Flexibility matters, and with this model, you lose that. And because the regular Scribe can simply turn its Frontlight off, you don't really gain anything in the scenarios where this model works well. In good light, both devices behave like regular reflective e-ink tablets. But when the light gets worse, the regular Scribe keeps going, and this one starts depending on your environment. That's a pretty huge difference in day-to-day use. But here's the thing, that could still make sense if the missing Frontlight layer resulted in a closer pen-to-pixel distance. But it doesn't, at least not in any meaningful way. So when you turn off the Frontlight on the regular Scribe, this screen looks and feels basically identical. There's no real difference when writing, and even those slightly more pronounced shadows around the edges of the screen are still there. That's a bit disappointing because most Frontlightless competitors from Remarkable or Books manage to reduce that effect quite a bit. Ghosting is actually the one area where the Frontlightless Kindle Scribe can score a small point over the regular model. On my unit, it's a bit better overall and less noticeable even with heavier content, complex pages, or after moving through the interface. It's still there, so I wouldn't call ghosting a strength of the display, but it is generally less obvious here. That said, I'd attribute that more to typical e-ink display tolerances than to Amazon necessarily using a different panel. Software, you guessed it, is also the same Scribe story. This is still a Kindle first with a solid notebook attached to it. And that's both the strength and the limitation. If you live in the Kindle ecosystem, the reading experience is excellent. Buying books is effortless, your library syncs across devices, the reading settings are familiar, and the Scribe still has one of the best ebook annotation systems in the e-ink space. You can write directly into supported books in a way where the text reflows around your handwritten note. which is much more practical than trying to squeeze handwriting into tiny margins. You can also use sidebar notes, sticky notes, typed notes, highlights, underlines, dictionary lookup, Wikipedia, and translation. And with the latest update, Amazon also allows you to move sticky notes, and there's now a reduced form of free markup by circling a word. Still not the full free markup you'll find on others, but honestly, for most reading workflows, I think Amazon's approach is actually the best in the e-ink space. You can also write directly on PDF pages, and the annotations stay there. The PDF tools are still pretty basic, but they are better than they used to be. Landscape mode, margin adjustment, contrast adjustment, and pinch to zoom all make the experience usable. That said, this is still Amazon's ecosystem. Google Drive, OneDrive, and OneNote connections make the Scribe more open than before. And Workspace is a better structure for organizing notes, books, and documents together. But you're still not getting an open tablet, and you're still not getting a local-first workflow. Note-taking in notebooks is good for everyday use. You get different pen tools, stroke thickness settings, pressure and tilt sensitivity, a lasso tool, folders and subfolders, page thumbnails, shape cleanup, and automatic handwriting recognition for global search. But the Scribe still isn't a deep note-taking system. There are no custom templates, no tags, and no layers. So the Scribe is better understood as a very good Kindle that can also handle a lot of everyday note-taking. Battery life is one of the strongest parts of the Scribe lineup, and also excellent on the Kindle Scribe without a Frontlight. And this version of the Scribe lives permanently in the most efficient scenario. No Frontlight at all. I measured roughly 85 hours for reading and 16 hours for writing. Both are great, but especially the writing performance is excellent. But I don't think that changes the buying decision very much, because the regular Scribe can also be used with the Frontlight off. So yes, battery life is a strength, standby drain is excellent. The EMR pen doesn't need charging. The whole device is very low maintenance. But that's true for the regular model too. And that brings us back to the main point. This Scribe is not bad. It's actually a very good device in many ways, because the regular Scribe with the Frontlight is also a very good device. The lower price is nice, and I do prefer the gray bezels personally. But removing the Frontlight only makes sense if the device gives you something meaningful in return. And I just don't think it does. So the only situation where I'd recommend this Kindle Scribe is if your budget is absolutely fixed. But for almost everyone else, I'd say get the regular Scribe with the Frontlight, or wait for one of Amazon's typical discounts and get it done. Now, coming back to the Remarkable Paper Pure comparison, because this is where the story gets more interesting. They sit in the same price range, but the Kindle gives you a sharper 300 ppi screen, much lower pen latency, much better battery life, higher end build quality, and a much better reading experience. And handwriting search is included for free, while Remarkable keeps it behind the Connect subscription. To be fair, the Remarkable Paper Pure also has a few tricks up its sleeve, like the noticeably closer pen-to-pixel distance, the slightly brighter screen background, and the more focused note-taking features. So if what you want is the cleanest possible notebook, and reading is only a side thing, the Paper Pure makes sense. But if reading is part of your workflow and you want a device that's not just a notebook, but also a genuinely strong e-reader with great hardware overall, the Frontlight-less Scribe actually becomes a pretty compelling alternative in that comparison. And that's why this device is so strange. It's the Kindle Scribe I'd personally skip inside Amazon's own lineup, but somehow for everyday note-taking plus reading, it's also a surprisingly strong alternative to the Remarkable Paper Pure. Like and subscribe if you found this review helpful, and to not miss my upcoming comparisons with other e-ink note-taking tablets. Thanks for spending your time watching, and I'll see you in the next one.